I follow you a lot. And the last time you were here, there was one question that I think you didn't really engage with her answer, and I wanted to ask it again, if that's okay with you. So there was a man named John Allegro who translated the Dead Sea Scrolls, and he concluded that Jesus was a mushroom. So, unless you eat some psilocybin mushrooms, you are taking it on faith that Jesus was not a mushroom. So are you willing to go home and eat some shrooms?
We're really out of time now, Ellison, because I haven't heard this before. Well, actually, someone said something about mushrooms, but I've never heard this theory except here in this class. So I would say, what do you mean a mushroom? That's the first question.
I can give you the book. Do you want the book reference?
No. You can explain it to me. What do you mean, or what does he mean by mushroom?
Sure. So there's this idea that John Allegro proposed, that every story in the Bible is actually a metaphor, a disguised metaphor for fertility cults, which ingested mushrooms. I forgot what the name of the specific mushroom was, but there's all this like philological kind of things he does, and it's a really interesting book.
All right, I got it. Okay, let me say this. What evidence does he have for this?
What evidence does he have?
Yeah.
So the main evidence is linguistic evidence. So, for example, in Jewish sources, Jesus is called sometimes the son of Pantera, which is related to the Greek word panter. And this was a word used for mushrooms. We have Christos, which John Allegro would say is related to Christos, which was also another word used to describe plants. And it's just a really interesting book. I just wanted to know your opinion on it.
Well, I haven't read it, so I don't really have an opinion, but there's so much historical data that we've been through and even couldn't go through, that it couldn't be just a metaphor. There's historical data involved. These are real people who lived a real life about 2,000 years ago. In fact, I didn't have time to go through this, but when you look at the eyewitness details, there are more than 30 people named in the New Testament that are known to be historical figures outside the New Testament from outside sources, like Herod, all the Herods, like Pilate, like Caiaphas, like Jesus himself is mentioned outside the New Testament documents as being an historical figure, even John the Baptist. These are all real people, so it's not a complete metaphor, even if there are metaphors in the Bible. This is good historical data. It would be like saying, would we expect, say 2,000 years from now, that the cult of Star Wars would be the most influential story in the history of mankind if it was just a movie? Nobody would say that 2,000 years from now, Star Wars will have taken over the world like Jesus has taken over the world here. Jesus is the most influential human being in history. And if you get my friend J. Warner Wallace's book, Person of Interest, you're going to see that this was not a metaphor. This was a real person.